welcome to another episode of The Platform. Great fun to have filmmaker Quincy Rose on the show. It's a random story in how it all came about. I saw an article on Facebook from IndieWire talking about his film that he made in New York, and then in researching him I found out we have a friend in common in Ashley Hamilton who I've filmed with a few times over the years, including one night going to a recording studio and filming with Robin, who created the Pussycat Dolls. That was hilarious.
So that was some of our night so far.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh?
Crazy, man.
Oh, we gotta go forward.
Thanks for offering me one.
That was the last one. Here. Here, you can have it.
Always fun filming with Ashley, and he's a childhood friend of Quincy Rose, so it was super cool to jump on Skype and film this. It's great to have you on the show. It's so random because I saw a little article in IndieWire talking about your film you made in a week.
Yes.
and then messaged you to get you on the show, and then I was kind of researching your backstory. It was like crazy because you've got an interesting Australian connection, don't you?
Well, I do, yeah. I was in a music video. I think this is what you're referring to, for a band called Powderfinger. And the interesting thing is, so I got that job, and at the time, music videos were still super popular. Like, there was money put into them, and MTV was actually a thing. It wasn't just like TV series. It was actually music videos. And I think prior to that, like, now this is a ridiculous comparison, and I didn't make it, but I remember a casting director telling me, like, oh, this is going to do to you what the Steven Tyler, what's that band with Steven? Is it Aerosmith? What are they? Yeah, the Aerosmith video did for Liv Tyler and Alicia Silverstone or something like that. They had separate videos.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, first of all, it's not possible because those are two beautiful women and they were very young at the time. And there was, that was a different situation altogether. But he was trying to say, this band is so big in Australia. They were the #1 band in Australia at the time.
Yeah.
And they were on the Rolling Stones Australia cover. And they were trying to do that thing that every band tries to do eventually. When you get big enough in your own country, you want to be #1 in the States. And everybody was telling them they were going to be #1 and all that stuff. And unfortunately, there was like a shift in like the tone of music at that point. So I don't think they didn't quite get that transfer into American psyches. But that song definitely did. It was called My Happiness.
Well, man, the other random thing that was that blew my mind actually was when I saw the trailer for The Narcissist, which is the film that you've just shot recently. It's coming out soon. People can watch it around the world. I was thinking when I watched it, like completely brand new, just thinking, what is this? Watching it for the first time, thinking, man, this is really, really cool, and kind of reminded me of Woody Allen. So then I Google you, and I'm like, okay, that's a bizarre connection. Can you tell us about the connection with you and Woody Allen? That's crazy.
Yeah, so, okay, so my father and Woody grew up together in Brooklyn, New York, where I live now, actually, not in the same city, not in the same part, but, so they grew up, they were high school buddies, and they, used to make each other laugh and all that jazz, and they became writing partners, and they wrote their first, they wrote a lot of Woody's stand-up comedy together. My dad, gave a lot of jokes to him for that. And then, and they wrote for Carson and different people. And then they wrote their first few movies together, which were What's Up, Tiger Lily, and Bananas, and Take the Money and Run. And and then my father moved to Los Angeles, which is where I was raised. So Woody was always like a, like your parents' friends, or like your uncle or your aunt or something. So he was always, Uncle Woody, and his sister, who's a producer, named Letty Aronson, and she was always Aunt Letty. And so we just, there is just like family in that sense. And so my dad and he were friends to the day my dad passed away about 6 years ago. And I'm still in touch and all of that stuff. But Woody put me in like a film, Melinda and Melinda. I got a couple lines in that with like Amanda Peet. So that was like a dream come true because, it's I'm hugely influenced by his films and his style of filmmaking.
Okay, great. It was great. It was great. You took the note. Great. Print 1 and 6, please. Yeah. You got it? Good. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, hey everybody, that's lunch. 1 hour. Thank you.
Hey, are you gonna join us? We're gonna go get a pizza at John's.
No, I'm meeting a friend.
You know what? Tell the actress we're going to do scene 10 instead of 26.
Okay, we're doing scene 10 instead of 26.
So that's the connection. And I think, I've gone on record with this before, and whatever that means, but like he took European cinema, in my opinion, and made it like hugely entertaining. Like he tweaked it and made it like it's like almost like a European sensibility, but applying it to American comedy romance stuff. And he created like a whole new genre of a style of filmmaking, which I'm sure he would deny, but I just think it's undeniable. And with him and Marshall Brickman's script for Annie Hall and what became of Annie Hall, and then those movies forward, really changed cinema. And that kind of, obviously the really hyper silliness and kind of surrealist stuff that my father loved writing, which was like Bananas and Take Money Run, that kind of stuff. Big influence on me, Monty Python, these kind of things. But when it's so relatable in a human way, like in Annie Hall or Manhattan, these kind of husbands and wives, that kind of stuff, it's you can look around and see how many filmmakers are influenced by that style, especially not only the people of his contemporaries, but the next generations, the Noah Baumbachs, the Nicole Hollis Centers, people. It's really struck a chord with a lot of filmmakers, and it's so yeah, that's the connection, and it's just a big influence. So
it's an amazing connection, man, because for me to actually watch your stuff and think, oh, that reminds me of a Woody Allen thing, and then all of a sudden to find out he's like so close, it was bizarre.
Yeah, it's funny, I always say, like, the when you make a film, write it, direct it, and act in it, two things happen. If people like it, they say, oh, it's really good. He's like Woody Allen. And then if they don't like it, they go, he thinks he's Woody Allen. And it's like you can't win any other way. Yeah. And then the fact that I'm Jewish and have glasses and was have an actual connection to it, then there's just no avoiding it. So. But The Narcissist actually, when I first wrote it and put down the title, because it's always a working title until you come up with the actual title, but just to have a file name, I called it Influences, because one of the things it was dealing with was influences, and in the teaser you don't get the entire influence feel, which you get some of it, but there's very specific conversations where I deal directly with critiques, both external and internal, of my work and of the film itself that we're making, and then my past work, and then being influenced by somebody else. This is all under the thin veil of a different character, which is intentional too, but is still me making a movie about a character making a movie about it. It's that whole layered kind of meta story or whatever. So,
well, the great thing in the article too is that in the headline was that New York filmmaker makes a movie in a week.
Yeah.
So tell us about the actual production of that. How did you get it all going?
Okay, so here's the thing. So I've made that's my third micro budget indie film. I like to refer to them kind of as like do it yourself films. You are far from doing it yourself. You have a group of people helping you. You don't do anything by yourself, but do it yourself in the sense that we are doing it ourselves, obviously independent of studio financing and or influence, but also super micro budget. So it's we can completely maintain all creative freedom. But so my point in bringing that up is it's not so uncommon to make a film for about 9 days when you were in this realm of filmmaking. And like my first film was made, it's called Miles to Go. I think it's available in Australia, at least it was. And my next film was Friends Effing Friends, and that was on Sky on Demand or whatever that was. But now I think I think they're all available on Vimeo worldwide because that's just a link. But that's besides the point. But the point is, these films get made for that quick because you're making them for very little money, and generally you're not. The point behind it is to really cut your teeth and make the film you want to make and have total creative control and freedom, and hopefully make some money back or make money. That would be nice. And so far it's working. But the point is, you got to make them quick. And so, but this film, I knew that I could make it really fast and try to make it super cheap. And so I basically set out to design it to be even quicker. Like the shortest film before that was 10 days of filming. And this was actually 5 days of filming principal photography, which is everything that has the actors in it, for those watching who don't know what that is, and the main filming. And then we did 2 half days, so really 1 whole day total, but 2 half days of shooting the city, just me and my cinematographer. We had like those shopping carts. I don't know if you guys have these in Australia, but I'm sure they're everywhere in some form or another. But in my neighborhood, everybody has these like kind of metal shopping carts that you take to the grocery store, because it's a walking city, so you don't drive a car anywhere. People do, but you don't. So you go to the grocery store and you're gonna have to take weight, so you bring it back, or laundry or whatever. And we got one of those, and that was our camera cart. I mean, to push around everything. And just me and my cinematographer, Jason Krangle, who's wonderful. And he does a lot of documentary filmmaking. So it was great because it lent itself to shooting in totally natural light. I knew we were going to shoot during the daylight hours. And I got it down to where there's only 4 actors. I'm one of them. And there's only 4 people crew, and I'm one of them. So there's really only 3 and 3 because I don't mind overworking myself.
What do you think it is about younger women to make them so attractive?
I would never date a younger guy.
Never trust anyone who quotes the Bible.
I told you I had an abortion once, yeah? I feel like I'm not as intelligent or mentally equipped as my parents were at my age.
I think the biggest reason I don't like being in relationships is because you also have to date that person's family.
Ugh, no, babe. I'm not walking 80 blocks just to eat lunch.
I'm pretty sure anyone who's not on parole for a lewd and lascivious sex act views all your proclivities differently, sexual or otherwise.
Did I ever tell you that in high school I was voted least likely to become president?
How are you trying to get me to focus? You haven't said one thing even remotely helpful.
Yeah, well, that's my style.
What?
If anything, couples hide behind the delusion of safety, thinking that equates to intimacy and meaning, when really it's just a smokescreen from having to look at yourselves honestly and clearly.
Admission doesn't always equal honesty.
No, but it does equal intimacy.
No, not when the truth of the admission is being used as a smokescreen.
So my problems, or the things I've done to him, are actually manifestations of my own intuitions that he would ultimately fail the relationship.
I'm your best friend. I'm just telling you about a beautiful woman I'm gonna put my erect penis into one day.
Oh, well, we all have to have goals.
It was an exciting opportunity. It was really cool. And I've never had a camera be so steady. Like I've never let's just put the camera here and they're going to be way down the street and you're not even going to know who's talking for a while. And then they come around the corner and then they are, and you follow them away. And it's great because there's just whatever's happening around us was happening. And we got really lucky, they'd finish the scene and then a pigeon would fly in and land right for a second. And we'd hold on the shot and then the pigeon would fly off and we're like, cut, that pigeon's a genius, and that kind of stuff. And every scene has pigeons because it's New York. So there's every scene there's some cool, if you look around, there's a pigeon up above them or flies in or there's, whatever. And, or there's a scene where the 2 women are walking down a street in the West Village and they make a turn and they're having this long drawn out conversation. And right as they walk by this kind of famous downtown theater called the Cherry Lane Theater, the guy who's maintaining that theater, I suppose, was cranking open the front gate. So it's just by coincidence that the timing, and he's not looking at camera, so I don't have to worry about doing a different take or something. And it's just it was just a really nice, happy accident. And we had that the whole shoot. So I was just really excited. Yeah.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I got to work with friends. Yeah, so it's great.
Awesome. Well, let's go back a little bit about your story. How did you get into this? I mean, obviously, if your father's a great writer and you're around the industry and you grow up in LA, but I mean, yourself personally, where did the passion come from?
Well, I guess ever since I was a kid, I don't know if it's such a thing as like transferred passions, but like my parents were both big readers and film goers, and my dad obviously is a film writer as well as a big television writer at the time when I was growing up and before I was born. And so when I was as little as I can remember, I've been shown movies and I loved movies. And as a little kid, I used to watch like Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, which was a Charlie Brown story. It was a film about the kids going off to like summer camp, and it's just I used to watch it over and over on Betamax. And another film I watched was a Francois Truffaut film called Small Change, which is not exactly appropriate for children, although it's about children in this small provincial town out, somewhere up away outside of Paris somewhere. But those two films had a huge effect on me. And it's just storytelling, I guess. And so did my father telling me stories, and my mom encouraging reading, and we used to read a lot. So I think I just was interested in it. And because it wasn't a restriction, and it was actually an encouragement, like my father would wake us up. Most parents are like, go to bed, it's too late, whatever. And I would be asleep, and I'd, get, what's happening? And my dad would go, you got to come in. The Carson thing I was telling you about that I wrote, is on TV, or Monty Python Live at the Hollywood Bowl's on, and I was like, oh, okay, like I was getting woken up for this stuff, and my sister too, and that kind of thing, and so just from an early age, I really loved it. But I think also because of Woody being in the family in that sense, and me seeing him and identifying, making the connection of like, oh, he's just this normal, regular person that we hang out with, and then he's on the screen. It wasn't so difficult for me to understand that like this might be fun, like that's something you do and work, and this is just real life. And so it looked fun to play that way. And so when I watch TV shows, or if I was on the set or whatever it was that I would get to go do, because my father got us in to watch a taping of Married with Children or whatever it happened to be, or some show I liked, I would always watch them and think, I could do that, And I think at the time it was mostly acting that I was interested in, although I've always written. And I was always encouraged to write, but I was discouraged to act, not because they thought I was bad, just because they thought it was a horrible life for someone to struggle as an actor.
Dr. Harold, I gotta tell you, I never thought I would say this, but you were right about everything.
Quincy Rose?
Yeah?
This is highly inappropriate, Quincy. If you need to talk to me, we'll have to wait until our next session.
No, this can't wait until next session. It's too amazing. I mean, Emma's father hired me to write the script for him, and I'm actually writing it. And the craziest thing is, I am so inspired to write that everything I see is fodder for another story.
I need you to hear me,
Quincy. And the sex has never been better. I mean, it is out of this world, man. It's mind-boggling, She does this move she calls the swing, It's incredible. She dislocates her shoulders, and I mount her, and she essentially becomes the swing.
Like a sex swing?
Yes. And, I even have a nickname. She calls me the champ, and I totally dig it.
So after 9 long years of seeing you twice a week, and you saying you're a writer but never writing one thing.
Right.
You're saying you're actually writing?
Yes.
I see. So the sex and being a champ in the bedroom is making you a champ in life. You're an idiot.
Exactly. Oh. Look, I finally realize now that it doesn't matter that my father's Mickey Rose, this legendary comedy writer, or that I'm Woody Allen's godson.
Okay. Call my receptionist, see what you can schedule.
No, Doc. You see, actually, I quit. See, I'm all better now, and I'm going to save my money and use it on something that I actually need.
But I don't even charge you.
I know. That's what makes this so awkward.
I can sit down and I can write every day. And so at first I just concentrated on writing, and just because I'd written my whole life, but I had never just really concentrated on being as good as I could be and learning it as best I could, and the formatting and everything. So I just started studying films even more than I used to, and really specifically studying them for pacing and, and just how it kind of flowed and all that stuff, and absorbing that, and started writing a bunch of scripts, and then eventually trying to sell those scripts, and got hired to write something else, and this kind of stuff, and learned things weren't moving that fast, so I learned how to edit, and I became like a manager of a post house where they taught me how to edit, and then I eventually got to make a TV series with a partner at the time that was based on my life as it was like a Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm, but for a younger, dark, like hipper, kind of tattooed version of that. And it was where I played Quincy Rose. It's called The Quincy Rose Show, and it's on YouTube. You can see the pilot presentation. We never sold it, but we got close, I think. And in any event, we got some great people to play with us. And
who played the dad? Who played the dad that's yelling at you in that clip?
That's Jack McGee.
Oh, man, he nailed it.
He's awesome. If you look him up, I mean, I couldn't go over what he's been in 150 films or whatever. He's fantastic. Lee Garlington plays the mother. She is wonderful.
This is all your fault.
I didn't do anything.
You have no idea how seriously we take Emma's sex addiction.
She told you she's a sex addict.
She may be adopted, but she is still our daughter. She tells us everything.
Really? Like everything?
Oh, what? You think you're the first champ? The first one to ride the swing?
Everybody in the neighborhood has rode that swing. Do you know how many hours of therapy we've been in just to try to help our little girl?
Not to mention the hours and hours we have spent watching porno films over and over again because Stanley thought that was the way we could finally understand what was happening to our little girl.
No, I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't.
Quincy, seriously, honey, are you that unaware? What, you think your sex life went from being a little tiny pile of shit to suddenly you're Peter North?
Who's Peter North?
Oh, my God.
Oh, only the most perfectly sculpted 9-inch penis in the world.
Amazing balls.
A lovely sack.
Look, just find her.
She's missing.
Of course she's missing. Do you think we'd be just coming over here to hang out with some hack asshole writer? Huh? A second-rate idiot?
That's a little harsh.
A little harsh? Here's harsh for you. My little girl is missing, and you better find her. You better do everything you possibly can. You better fucking find her by tomorrow.
Definitely. Sweet. Definitely. Sweet. Now, on a totally separate subject, regarding the script, I have quite the MacGuffin to bridge acts 2 and 3 together. Okay, look, let's just chalk that up to bad timing, and I'm gonna get on the whole Emma thing right now.
So then what did it feel like going through all that and then, finally making your first film and being on set? That must have been pretty cool.
That was awesome. So with it's like a lot of the times on like a feature film, you'll give the easiest stuff for the first day, because it's hard to get into the swing of things from going from first of all, everybody's working together for the first time often, or it's just, you got to get into the swing of things. So, I decided to put all these running scenes in this film. Miles, the character I play, is a runner, and he's running from himself, and he's, it's a metaphor, and he's also physically a runner. And so we decided to do all this, and he's alone a lot. So we decided to shoot all the scenes where Miles was just alone thinking, or, it gave us our time to just ease into it. And we also shot the running scenes, and I'm only mentioning this because it was a big mistake, because I ran so hard on the second night and through night and all this stuff, and behind a car that was filming us and all that stuff, and I overdid it, and by day 4, I woke up with no voice, and I was in every scene, so it was like everybody was freaked out. I was surprisingly calm. I just thought, well, we'll figure it out. We're gonna have to push a couple days, and we'll make it work, and we eventually did. And I know I can hear when my voice is gone in the film, because I eventually was doing scenes where I could only say my lines, and I was directing like on paper,
Wow.
to the actor I was working with. I was like, can you do that again, but with a little bit more inflection on the, I'd write that out, and then I would just say my lines, or I'd be like, like that kind of stuff, and just I had to preserve my voice. So it was intense, but it was such a satisfying experience, and it was, there was just a lot of gratitude in making that, and it was really gratifying, of course, and my family helped chip in. I presented them with a small budget that I knew I could manage because of what I had done on these other projects with other people's small budgets, and I just said, look, I'm a late bloomer. I blew it in my 20s. I was not that wise, and I screwed everything up. But no, I want to make it, and I'm dedicated to this. This is my passion. This is what I'm going to do. I need somebody to help me jumpstart this. And they finally came around because I gave them a sincere budget and a low enough cost and everything. And they said, yeah, okay, we'll help you do this. And it ended up being a real blessing because, not to go too much into this direction, but my father passed away in 2013 out of the blue. It turned out he had stage 4 cancer. So, but in 2012, a couple really awesome things happened. I got to make that film, Miles to Go, and then it played at a cinema in Los Angeles called ArcLight Cinemas. Do you know that one in Hollywood?
Yeah.
It's like a really major, it's a great cinema house, and it played in this festival called the Hollywood Film Festival. So it was nominated for a Hollywood Film Award, which was kind of a cool honor. And but my dad got to see it, and unbeknownst to me and everybody else, a few months later he was deceased. So
wow.
It was just lucky that I got to share that experience, and he was so proud.
Like I said, other than the fact that I haven't been sleeping well lately, all is fine.
I mean, yeah, it's okay if you miss me, but it's not really my problem. We're not together. You broke up with me.
I just don't see how it can last. I mean, with her or with anyone.
What's the biggest reason you're hesitant?
Mostly because I think of all the reasons we broke up in the first place, and I can't imagine them not coming up again.
What?
Oh, don't give me what.
Aren't you gonna come inside?
I'm a little worried maybe we're rushing things.
I think it's a good thing. You said you're writing more consistently now?
I'm just not sure if I'm inspired by her or by being back with her, or if just not feeling lonely has freed up my mind to be creative again.
I think you're making the right decision with Julia.
Yeah, well, she told me to take my time to decide, but we've seen each other every night since, and I don't know, it's nice being with her, and we have a good time and all. It's just, I'm not sure that, I don't know, you know me.
I can't be partially involved with you. For me, I need us to be fully committed or no contact at all.
Dude, girls are so fucking crazy.
Not that we're exactly a couple of picnics. I might have caught that.
I think that we could have something really great.
You look phenomenal.
Stop, you're making me blush.
I don't know, I'm an asshole.
You're not an asshole.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go.
Well, I can't say you don't keep it interesting.
Yeah, so that's how I got to where I'm at now. And like I said, The Narcissist is about to come out, and then now the last couple of years, not to just keep running through it unless you have a specific question about that, but I'm working with a really great producer now, finally connected with an amazing, legitimate, veteran, seasoned producer who's worked with some of my favorites like Noah Baumbach or Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, and these kind of people. And she's done a lot of independent films. Her name's Rana Joy Blickman. She's wonderful. And we've been together for a little over 2 years, really, really systematically building our relationship. And now we're not just partners, but we're great friends and admirers of one another. And to have the support of somebody who knows what they're doing in that field, and to be able to just let go of so much and concentrate on the creative side of not that producing isn't creative, but the specifically writing and or thinking about shots I want to do or cinematographers I want to meet, and reaching out to actors and all of that stuff, which is where we're at right now with the next few projects. And we have this wonderful casting director named Ronnie Yeskel, who is just legendary, and she's been in the business for so long and done amazing films like, again, going back to Quentin Tarantino, like Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction, or more recently she did a film called The Session. I mean, she's working all the time, so there's so many films you'd have to look it up. But she's great, and just putting together this really wonderful veteran team of brilliant, wonderful people who have a lot of experience and so much I can learn from, and it's really great. And yeah, so we're starting to reach out to some actors that we are interested in having in the next couple films, and it's just been an awesome process. And then you came along out of nowhere, and I was like, what's going on here?
Man, I want to ask you, like, a lot of people go from Australia over to LA on holidays or whatever. Disneyland was the big dream, and you get there and you might see a celebrity. You may even talk to one. It's pretty cool. But for you, growing up in LA, like, what's like the craziest moment for you where you've had a moment with a celebrity or something where you've thought this is as good as it gets?
Well, ironically, I've never been a big fan of LA. I love my childhood. I love my friends, and I had a really nice, pleasant experience. But I always wanted to be in New York, and one of my next films actually addresses that. But so. But I mean, there's so many great experiences. But I mean, we mentioned Ashley Hamilton. His mother used to be married to Rod Stewart, and I remember being in like first grade and like going back to Ashley's house that evening, and after school, Lamborghini pulled up and the thing rang, popped open, and I mean, he was Rod Stewart to the world, but to us, like you're 6 or 7 years old, you're like, Lamborghini, like he was just a really cool British guy who wore leather pants and had crazy hair, and I just knew he was nothing like my parents, who were like a little bit more straight edged, and my mom was a teacher and my dad was a writer, and just not conservative necessarily, but definitely more reserved. And so like that's a fun thing as a kid, and another one of my best friends named Darren, who grew up next door to a man named Noel Blanc, who was Mel Blanc's son, and Mel Blanc did a lot of the cartoon characters' voices.
Yeah,
I don't want to say which. Yeah, I don't want to say which ones because I can't remember if it was like Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck. I don't remember which series of people it was, but it was one of those. He did like all of them, and then his son took over for him.
Oh,
and
really?
So it was cool to like, yeah, he would do the voices, or like Gene Kelly lived up the street from him, and I mean, as far as like if you're looking for like celebrity kind of experience, it's all mixed in because like you go to school, like I grew up with. It sounds like name dropping, but it's just when I was in school, it meant nothing. It was just there was a young, skinny, girl who was very pretty named Angie Voigt, who everybody knows as Angelina Jolie, and she's just somebody at school. But she wasn't Angelina Jolie yet. She was just Angie Voigt from around the corner.
Was she in your classes?
No, because I'm about the same age as her, but I was a year ahead of her because I started school early.
Right.
And but we lived around the corner, and I used to see her. In fact, I ran into John Voight and her brother, his son, not too long ago, just randomly. I think he was shooting that TV series he's on with Lev Shriver. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a pretty good show. I understand. And just happened to sit next to him, and I said, "You don't remember who I am, of course, because why would you?" But but we actually lived around the corner from each other. And I said to the son who was there, I said, "And we used to play basketball together." And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Oh, Quincy." "Oh yeah, how are you? What's going on?" It was funny. Like so, those were like just regular. Like I said, Ashley's father was George Hamilton. I mean, he's around, and like my friend's grandmother was next door neighbors with Lucille Ball, and like these are just like, and again, I grew up going to like the Johnny Carson show and going on set with my father, and he wrote for Happy Days, so we were at the Happy Days set, and I was very young in those days, but he wrote for so many shows, and we would get to go to them, and it was just exciting because I really loved the world of entertainment, and it wasn't like it was never exciting just because the person's famous. It's not like I think there's definitely those people you can have that type of person in Los Angeles who's very enamored by the world of celebrity and stuff, and everybody is at some degree because you see these people on television or wherever, and they're in your brain almost as if they're like somebody you know, and you go about your day and you don't ever expect to see them in real life, and then one day you see them and you're like, oh, that's and some people's reaction is like, oh my God, it's fill in the blank. But when you grow up out there, it is much more common to even know somebody who's related to them or to see them often. I have a really great friend of mine that I used to live with in San Francisco, and every time she would come down to LA, she used to say, first night, she'd go, who are we going to see to this trip? And I'd say, honestly, you should not expect to see anybody. I almost never see people, this whole thing. And then you're walk into a, coffee bean and it's like Alec Baldwin, or whatever.
Man, I love asking people about living ultimate dreams. So I'm just wondering, for you as a filmmaker and a storyteller, if you could live the ultimate dream for you, what would it be?
So that's one of those tricky questions of what would be success, and I really think I believe you have to define and redefine things like success and living the dream. And I believe I am living the dream currently and pretty much have been my whole life, except when I was a strung out junkie living the nightmare. But in some regards, that gave me really interesting stories too. And so I can't regret that. But, the ultimate goal, I should say, is to be funded, to be continuously making the next film, and to grow and become the best filmmaker I can become and the best writer I can become. I'm not particularly interested in pursuing my acting moving forward. I really act as a means of necessity. And in the last films that I acted in, it's I can control my schedule. I know I'll show up. I'm not going to complain about the amount of hours I work. So I do it, and also I write very specifically for my tone. I had something been different, I might have continued pursuing that, and maybe I'll do a little of that. But really, ultimately, I want to keep writing and directing and get bigger and bigger opportunities and get to work with really great, talented cast and crew, and just have a supportive team around that helps us pursue these endeavors, and so I'm in the process of that, and just hopefully if we talk in another few years, it would be because something really great is coming out. Not that I wouldn't even like talking to you anyway, but you know what I mean? If it's based on the work, if you were to say, what would happen if we revisited in 5 years, hopefully a couple more films, but of a much greater level of expertise. And that requires having the financing and the support to get the right crew and the right cast and all of that. Been fortunate enough to work with great friends and hard workers and people who are also learning at their craft, but hopefully we'll all start gaining on our experience and being able to elevate each other consistently. So
that's awesome, man. Well, look, your movie, The Narcissist, is that's the great thing about technology. People can download it anywhere in the world shortly. So tell us about how we're going to watch it.
So it's coming out. The Narcissist comes out August 27th. This August 27th, in a couple weeks. And it's coming out through a company called Gravitas Ventures, who put out my last film, Friends Effing Friends Effing Friends. And actually, all three films can be found on Vimeo worldwide. Miles Ago, Friends Effing Friends Effing Friends, and now The Narcissists, which is plural. You know what you can do? You can always go to QuincyRoseFilms.com, and there's always a link to my projects and where to get in touch with them, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all that jazz, and Facebook. And but the main thing to know is The Narcissist comes out the 27th this month, and you can pre-order it so that you don't even have to worry about ordering it and remembering on Tuesday the 27th. You can just wake up and it'll be in your inbox.
Awesome, man. Well, look, thank you so much for being on the show. It's so cool to send you a message and jump on and film a chat, and I wish you the best with everything. And yeah, man, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. And please stay in touch. You know, if you're in New York or something, you want to grab coffee, let me know. And little, you know, there's Facebook, we're connected. So whatever, you know, give me some updates. I'll help spread the word when you post this, etc.
Cool, man. Yeah, so there you go. He's a super talent. I can't wait to see some of the films he's going to make in the future. Very fun to have him on the platform. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.